My brother-in-law lost his mind when I confessed I was seeing someone else. My sister's husband started acting strange after I told him I was seeing another guy. This is mostly just me getting my thoughts out there, but I would definitely appreciate hearing other people's thoughts or advice on what I should do. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Ashley. I am 17 years old, and my sister Jess, who is 25 years old, has been married to a man named Jake for about 2 years. They first got together back when Jess was 23. Growing up, Jess practically raised me because our parents really were not around to help us. She did so much for me, and I can honestly say I would not be who I am today without her support. When Jess went off to college, I made sure to call her about 3 times every week just to check in and keep up with what was going on in her life. Those calls meant a lot to me, and we grew even closer through them. When we were kids, it was always just me and Jess, so once she introduced me to Jake, we bonded quickly, too. My parents never showed me a good model of what a relationship is supposed to look like. In fact, they probably should have separated years ago. Jess and Jake recently shared the exciting news that they are expecting a baby. Of course, I was thrilled, but everyone is worried because my sister has had a few miscarriages already. Not long ago, my parents decided I could no longer use their car. So Jake stepped in and offered to give me rides to and from school and work. I was really thankful he did this for me. While he drove me around, Jake and I talked pretty often, and sometimes he would ask me questions about whether or not I was seeing anyone. There was a guy I liked at the time, but I was not ready to talk openly about it, so I kept things general and avoided specifics. Then recently, I decided to tell Jake that I had started dating someone. When I did, he suddenly acted distant and angry, accused me of being dishonest with him, and even shouted at me, demanding to know why I kept it a secret. At one point, he even asked me, "What about us?" And I honestly have no idea what he meant by that. Looking back now, I'm starting to notice other things that seem unusual. Jake often finds excuses to come outside whenever I am swimming or sunbathing. On top of that, when I leave the bathroom after showering and I am heading back to my bedroom in just a towel, Jake is sometimes hanging around nearby. I have been hesitant to talk to Jess about this, especially after reading comments that suggested she might not believe me or take his side instead. I have thought about collecting evidence quietly, just in case something happens later. I would like to avoid upsetting Jess during her pregnancy, especially since it is high risk and any extra stress could seriously hurt her or the baby. If there were immediate danger, of course, I would tell her immediately, but I still do not think Jake is dangerous. I want to assume he is just overwhelmed by stress, given the difficult pregnancy and everything he is managing at home. Even so, his angry outburst really scared me, and I felt unsafe. Since there is no way I could defend myself physically if something happened, I have decided to talk to my friends to see if someone else can drive me, or maybe ask Alex for rides to and from work. If none of that works, I might just have to find a new job closer to home. Meanwhile, I am going to start setting clearer boundaries and reinforcing that I view Jake strictly as a brother figure. I do not want to create tension or hostility, but after seeing his angry reaction, I realize I need to protect myself. I genuinely believe Jake might just be under too much pressure right now. My sister's pregnancy is high risk, and he's probably overwhelmed by taking care of her. Maybe that's why he reacted so harshly when he found out I was dating someone. Still, even giving him the benefit of the doubt, I need to set clearer boundaries. His angry outburst really frightened me and left me feeling vulnerable. Since I wouldn't stand a chance physically if things escalated, I've decided to ask some friends if they're willing to help drive me around. I'll also reach out to Alex to see if he can help transport me to and from work. If none of that works, I'll simply look for a job within walking distance. Meanwhile, I'll do my best to emphasize that I view Jake strictly as a brother. I'd rather maintain a peaceful environment instead of causing tension or hostility. Regardless, I now know that I need to take steps to improve my current situation and make sure I'm safe. Update. I'm starting to wonder if Jake's behavior is actually strange, or if I'm just overreacting. I want to start by thanking everyone who offered advice on my previous post. After reading all of your comments last night, I realized I can't continue staying here and must take action immediately. Even though I still care deeply about Jake, the situation is just too risky to ignore. I attempted to speak with him once more, hoping we could talk things through calmly, but he was still upset, so I decided to avoid confrontation and stayed in my room. Later, in the middle of the night, I started feeling suffocated by the tension in the house and decided to step out for a short walk to my usual quiet spot to clear my mind. Barely 15 minutes later, Jake texted me, demanding to know where I was. Immediately after that, he began calling me nonstop. I can't even begin to explain how frightened I felt at that moment. I just wanted him to leave me alone. Eventually, I answered the phone, and he exploded, shouting insults at me. He called me a spoiled princess who always expects special treatment, and told me I deserved to be treated badly. He then demanded I send him my exact location, which I absolutely refused to do. Instead, I asked him to calm down and think carefully about the things he just said. Right after that call ended, I contacted Alex, who thankfully answered his phone. I tried explaining the whole situation to him, though it was hard to speak clearly because I was shaking and crying uncontrollably. Alex quickly came to where I was and tried to comfort me. After calming down a bit, I went over everything again, clearly this time. Throughout this conversation, my phone kept ringing constantly, but I ignored it, assuming it was Jake again. However, when I noticed the call was coming from my sister's number, I reluctantly decided to answer it, although I suspected Jake would be on the other end. Sure enough, it was Jake again, yelling insults loudly enough for Alex to hear. Alex took the phone from me, told Jake firmly to stop, informed him that I was safe, and ended the call. Alex reassured me that things would be all right, and then drove me back to the ranch. He explained everything to his parents, and they kindly offered me one of their extra rooms in exchange for additional work at the ranch. That night, I stayed close to Alex, eventually calming down enough to fall asleep. I didn't attend school today, taking some time to rest and recover. After considering Jake's reaction and the comments I'd received, I started seriously worrying about my sister. I called Jess, relieved when she answered, although she was clearly upset and had been crying. Jess asked if I was okay, sharing that she'd woken up to Jake yelling the previous night. Frightened, she had pretended to sleep as he took her phone from its charger. After hearing more yelling and the front door slam, she realized Jake had gone searching for me, taking her phone along. Jess had no idea what to do and feared Jake might physically harm me. About an hour later, Jake returned home, still angry. When Jess asked what happened, he exploded in anger at her too, even breaking furniture. Soon after, he left again but left her phone behind. Jess saw the numerous calls he had made to me and called a friend to pick her up. She tried reaching me while I was asleep, terrified Jake might have found me. Jess apologized repeatedly for not noticing sooner and for not protecting me. Jess questioned why I hadn't told her earlier, and I explained I didn't want to stress her due to her pregnancy. We both cried as we talked. Thankfully, our parents have offered Jess to move back home rent-free to help with the baby, an option that would have prevented all this if available earlier. Jess and I went out to dinner together, read my original post, and shared another emotional moment. She confessed Jake's rage had deeply scared her. We still need to arrange a date to pick up our belongings, planning to have her dad and Alex there in case Jake causes trouble. Jake has tried apologizing repeatedly, claiming he was only concerned for my safety and unaware Jess overheard his threats. Jess told Jake she would be filing for divorce and ended the conversation abruptly. I love my sister dearly and know she'll find someone better, who truly loves her. On a brighter note, Alex and I have a date planned for next week, which makes me feel hopeful again. I'm extremely grateful to those who commented online and pushed me to act. I genuinely believe you might have saved my life by encouraging me to leave when I did.